From KVUE News in Austin, you're watching Texas This Week with Ashley Goodo.
Good Sunday morning. The rules are set for the impeachment trial of suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton, settling a big question what role Paxton's wife, Senator Angela Paxton, will play in the trial. More on that in just a minute, but first, let's get to the three things you need to know in Texas politics.
The first special session of the 88th Texas legislature ends this coming Tuesday, and the House and Senate are still at an impasse over property tax relief. On Tuesday, the Senate passed a new $18 billion plan, one Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick calls the largest in the world. Senate Bill 26 would reduce the school M&O tax rate by 10 cents and lower the maximum amount school districts can increase your taxes year over year without an election to 1.75%. It would increase the homestead exemption to $100,000 and double the franchise tax exemption for businesses to $2.47 million, meaning 67,000 small to medium businesses wouldn't have to pay the franchise tax. The bill is estimated to save the average homeowner more than $1,200 in the first year, and homeowners ages 65 and older or disabled more than $1,400. In comparison, the bill the House passed before adjourning sine die, House Bill 1, uses about $17 billion to lower the school tax rate by 16.2 cents per $100 in home value, saving homeowners an estimated $700. Speaker of the House Dade Phelan didn't comment on the Senate's new plan, but just before it passed, he announced the creation of a new committee to look into property tax relief. The House Select Study Committee on Sustainable Property Tax Relief is made up of 13 lawmakers and 3 members of the public. A Texan is throwing his hat in the race for the White House. Former Republican Congressman Will Hurd announced his presidential campaign Thursday. A critic of former President Donald Trump, the former CIA agent, came out swinging.
And if we nominate a lawless, selfish, failed politician like Donald Trump, who lost the House, the Senate, and the White House, we all know Joe Biden will win again. Republicans deserve better. America deserves better. It's common sense.
The Republican primary is getting crowded with 14 declared candidates. The U.S. Supreme Court delivered a blow to Texas. On Friday, the High Court rejected Texas and Louisiana's attempt to sue the Biden administration over its immigration deportation policy. Back in 2021, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security instructed agents to prioritize deporting convicted felons or people who pose a risk to public safety. The attorneys general for Texas and Louisiana sued. In the court's opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote, quote, "The states have brought an extraordinarily unusual lawsuit. They want a federal court to order the executive branch to alter its arrest policies so as to make more arrests. Federal courts have not traditionally entertained that kind of lawsuit." Governor Greg Abbott responded to the ruling on Twitter, calling it outrageous.
After 2 days of deliberations behind closed doors, the Senate approved the rules for the impeachment trial of suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton. The trial will start on Tuesday, September 5th at 9 a.m. Each side will have 60 minutes for opening statements, and each gets a total of 24 hours to present evidence. Each side also gets 1 hour of rebuttal of the evidence. Finally, each side will have an hour to make a final argument or closing statement. The trial will be open to the public with seating in the Senate gallery. Media is allowed to attend, and the trial will be live streamed. The lawmakers also decided on the limited role Paxton's wife, State Senator Angela Paxton, will play. Scott Braddock, editor of Harvey Kronberg's The Quorum Report, joined me to talk about the rules. You hold no punches when it comes to your thoughts about the actions of lawmakers. Tell us your thoughts about the overall rules.
Fascinating to watch the Senate, or not watch them, as they were behind closed doors for 2 days trying to hammer out the rules for the upcoming impeachment trial of Attorney General Ken Paxton. Had a lot of people asking me from around the country, and actually it's been interesting to see how many people around the whole U.S. are tuned into this. It's really interesting. You have a situation where Republicans are potentially going to police one of their own. I think nationally people are only used to tribalism, where it's one party against the other, but this is a intra-party fight. The fact that it took them so long to hammer it out tells me that there was a lot of contention about one specific thing. I'm sure there were lots of questions, but one thing was really on the minds of senators, and that was whether the wife of Ken Paxton, Senator Angela Paxton, can vote in this deal, and they decided that she cannot. And in fact, she can't be in on their private deliberations when they act as a jury. She can be present on the floor when they vote, which is significant because that means that the threshold for conviction and removal will stay the same. 2/3 of senators who are present, that means 21 votes to convict and remove him. So there is a little bit of a thumb on the scale in the direction of Paxton there. But as you also know, based on covering the Senate, the real meeting is the one they have behind closed doors. The Texas Senate has done this for years, where they have their pre-meeting in a private setting, and then they come out on the floor and they vote, and they vote on amendments, bills, and all of that sort of stuff. But it's kind of pre-scripted based on that pre-meeting, and Angela Paxton won't be there.
Something you said I really want to hone in on. She's still going to count towards
Yep.
The total number needed. So we need 21 instead of 20 in order to convict. Really talk to us about how you think that in and of itself, because she obviously would be a no vote in terms of
Maybe.
whether.
I'm not sure. I think that you're hitting exactly on the right thing, which is this is the biggest, most egregious conflict of interest that someone could possibly have. If you or I were on trial for anything, there's no chance our spouse would be on the jury, right? And if you were the defendant and one of the allegations had to do with having an extramarital affair, which is the case with Ken Paxton, you certainly wouldn't want your spouse to be sitting in judgment of you. It could be that they're thick as thieves and she's with her man all the way, stand by your man, like the Tammy Wynette song. Or it could be like Carrie Underwood, as a colleague of mine pointed out. It could be that he'll learn his lesson before he cheats next time. Either way, if you're the defense attorneys, you would think it'd be a good thing that she's not there. Or that she can't vote. But to your point about her being present, it keeps that threshold the same. And if we're doing a head count of folks in the Senate, I think right now, Ashley, if the trial were held today, there would be at least a majority of senators who would be voting to convict. Now, that's not enough, because it takes 2/3 to remove the Attorney General from office. And that's 21 votes as long as all senators are on the floor, and Paxton will be there with them. But I think it's going to send a strong message, even if he's not convicted. If there's a majority of senators who want to convict him, including Republicans, I think that damages him going forward politically.
When you talk about potential witnesses, one of those potential witnesses I would think would be Senator Brian Hughes, who is mentioned in those articles of impeachment. And the rules say that a senator can be called to be a witness. How interesting would that be?
Oh, get your popcorn out, Ashley. I mean, this is going to be just incredible to watch. We're in so much uncharted water here. You're right. There's at least 3 senators who I would say are compromised. That would be Angela Paxton, who we mentioned, Brian Hughes, who you mentioned, who's implicated in the testimony in the House, and also Senator Donna Campbell, through no fault of her own. But one of her staffers is the person that Ken Paxton's accused of having a sexual relationship with. And so you could say that any of those people are people who have conflicts of interest. Now, here's the thing with these rules, and let's get real here. There's no way to eliminate all of the conflicts of interest, because when you're talking about an impeachment process, it's not a court proceeding, it's a legislative proceeding. That means everybody kind of has some sort of conflict of interest, because everyone involved, all the House members, all the Senate members, Ken Paxton himself, everybody in this they're all politicians, Ashley. And so you could say that Democrats have a conflict of interest because he's a Republican. You could say that his wife has a conflict of interest because she's his wife. You could say that Lieutenant Governor Patrick has a conflict because he loaned Paxton money for a campaign back in 2018. What they're trying to do with the rules is eliminate as many conflicts of interest as possible and eliminate the most egregious conflicts, which of course that one would be his wife, who is his spouse. I mean, you can't make up stuff. You couldn't make up a novel, or write a novel that would have this many twists and turns about Texas politics. You want the real thing. You want the drama of the real thing, and that's what we're going to get.
The trial starts September 5th. Of course, we will have full coverage for you once it begins. That's Texas This Week.